All right, great. So I'm going to be covering a lot of the product updates for Modeler, which is specifically focusing around quality and everything to do with kind of driving quality throughout the software delivery lifecycle. So some of you will have seen this slide before, some of you won't have, but this is basically the product roadmap we have for Modeler over 2024. Obviously, we're just coming up to the end of Q1 at the moment. Which is kind of where we're going to focus a lot of these updates today. There's 4 specific updates that we're going to look at, which is the ability to share models, the ability to measure coverage, and our new auto maintenance capabilities that have come out. Okay. Now you'll see there's obviously lots of other capabilities that have been added this quarter across test intelligence, which is applying all of the latest AI algorithms and improvements that have been added to the product. And also features around customer success that have been requested by our customers as we've been going through this past quarter. What I will say, if anyone would like a dedicated roadmap session, just get in touch with your sales rep or whoever you're in contact with from the Curiosity team, and we'll be very happy to set up a session to talk to you about the future of the product and everything involved. But anyway, we've picked out 3 kind of highlight features that we want to go through in this session. One of the core themes across the next 12 months that we're really going to be focusing on is around collaboration. What we've seen in a lot of teams is that actually there's a lot of silos within an organization. You know, things get thrown over the wall, or, you know, you end up with incomplete or ambiguous, and there's just a lack of clarity across the whole software development lifecycle that takes place. So one of the features that we've added in is the ability to share and embed models inside external applications. And what that basically means is that if you have created a model of a business process or some kind of functionality, you can go into your emails, you can go into Teams, you can go into Slack, you can copy and paste a link. Basically, anyone can open up that model in viewer mode and they can see it. So this is obviously a nice way to be able to share around models so that you have visibility into different processes and how they work within your organization. The other area that we've picked up over time is that a lot of our customers, once they've built a model, they'll download either a picture or an SVG, some kind of image, and they'll embed that inside the internal tools they have in their organization. So that could be an internal wiki, it might be a Confluence page, or even a Jira ticket itself. So what we've done is we've opened up the capabilities of Modeler to be able to come in and basically embed the models inside the tools that you're using in your organization. So I'm going to jump in and just give you a bit of a look around in terms of how that looks. So most of my examples today are actually going to be based around this example model we have, which is for a loan application. And this model basically walks you through all of the different business rules for someone applying for a loan, you know, their income, their salary, the purpose of the loan. And it's all the different scenarios you can walk through to either have a loan accepted or, you know, a loan gets rejected or the applicant gets rejected because of one of the various routes we've gone down through that model. Now, inside the UI, if I come into the top right here, there is a share button. And what that basically means is I have a link I can now share with anyone. I can go away, paste that into the browser, and it will open up our view-only mode of the model we have. So you'll see it's just a very cut-down UI. I can scroll throughout the model. I can see everything inside here, but this gives me a very lightweight view that I can share with other team members I have. The other capability we have is we can go in and embed this model inside tools that exist in the organization. So a common way to do this in applications is using iframe. So we've just got, you know, the snippet here to go and just directly copy and paste that iframe. What we're going to do is we're going to come into a Confluence page that we have built out. And, you know, this is fairly typical. We have a Confluence page for our loan application, and we've got, you know, a very text-heavy description of all the different scenarios that are kind of represented by this model we have, right? Now, if I come in to edit this Confluence page, what I can do is I can come in the bottom, we can add a new element. This element is going to be an iframe. We can paste our URL in here. We're going to give it a width of 100%. We'll give it a height of 600 pixels. And if we come through and we save that, close it, what you'll see is that we've now got this widget that has appeared inside our Confluence page. So we'll just update that. We'll come back in Confluence, and now we've got this model available to anyone who has access to this Confluence page, and they can drill down into the actual business logic that exists and see all of the model that's represented there. So as I say, this is a nice way to get teams collaborating on models, and it's a nice way to get additional visibility into all of the processes and everything that you guys are building out inside Modeler. The next feature I want to dive into is our ability to measure coverage. Now, what we've seen in a lot of organizations is, firstly, there's an awful lot of vanity metrics that take place. So, an example of a vanity metric might be the number of tests that are being run, or the number of commits that have taken place over the past week. What we have found is that model coverage is a much better metric in terms of how effective a test suite is. So we've basically revamped our coverage kind of widget and everything inside it, inside Modeler, to help you guys more easily measure the coverage which is taking place, and also have the ability to come in and identify areas of under testing, areas of over testing, so that you can come in and you can tweak your test suites to make them more effective. The second benefit of this is also around having confidence in the test suite that has been created. So if you know that you're hitting 100% coverage for your edges and your nodes, that gives you a much better degree of certainty that if you've performed those test cases and you've executed them, that you're getting a much better level of confidence, as opposed to a test suite that has 20, 30, or 40% coverage that's there. So I'm going to come into Modeler again, and we're going to focus on this loan model that we looked at before. What we have on the right-hand side is we have the paths that we have generated and imported. And you'll see we've got 27 paths here. I can flick through them, and you can see the different scenarios we are covering through the model. Now, if I come into the advanced option here, I can click on coverage, and that brings up our coverage dialog, where we can see all of the different levels of coverage we're hitting for the three metrics we're reporting on here, which are node coverage, edge coverage, and in-out coverage. Now, what's nice about this view is we can now come in and we can expand the details here. So if I expand node coverage, you can see the top ones that we're hitting. So we have 27 tests passing through these top. But as I go down, you'll see we have much, much fewer tests passing through some of the other nodes here. And if I go all the way to the bottom, what you'll actually see is that we have some processes here, some nodes, where we actually have 0 tests passing through them. Okay, now these metrics that we're reporting on here, you can download, you can pull them into an Excel file. You can also go up the coverage levels here, and you can see, the same view for the edges that we have. So you can look at your edge coverage, and you can go all the way up to in-out coverage here, and you can see all the edge combinations that take place. Now, I have a coverage profile at the moment which is set for all edges. Okay, so if I generation, I'll get the minimum number of paths to maximize coverage across my edge criteria that I have. Now we'll see that my node coverage is at 96%. There are 2 nodes missing, and my edge coverage is at 95%. There are 4 edges missing. What I can do is I can hit the improve coverage button at any time. And what this is going to do is take the existing test suite I have, and it's going to identify gaps and inefficiencies and the paths needed to bring that coverage level up to 100%. So you'll see that that has now gone from 97% up to 100%. If I go into my detailed view, you'll see all of my blocks now, all of my nodes and edges now have tests covering them. So this is a nice way to be able to come in and firstly review the level of coverage that you're hitting with your test suite. You can download all of the metrics if you need to provide some kind of report to management or stakeholders. But also there's the ability here that you can click on the improve coverage button, which will take your existing test suite, no matter what percentage level you have of coverage, and it will bring it up to 100%. with the tests that are needed to add in there. So this is obviously a core theme for us as well over the next 12 months in terms of measurement. In the next quarter, we're going to be adding in a lot of features around traceability to help with understanding and measuring my coverage compared to my requirements, and being able to go through and trace backwards and forwards between tests to requirements and everything else there. The next feature I want to pick up on is our automated maintenance feature. So again, what we've seen a lot in the industry over the past kind of 5 years is that actually, and this is especially true of automation, is that an awful lot of time is spent maintaining test cases. And I think there's a pretty common thread in the automation industry that actually maintenance can kill any return on investment that organizations are expected to see from automation. So what we have done in Modeler is we've been working on a maintenance capability that basically, when you go in and you update your model or your requirements change, when you save that model, it identifies you of any tests that have been impacted by that change. And then you then have the ability to go in and update those test cases and hopefully bring them back in line. So I'm going to go back into our favorite model today, which is this loan application one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of changes here. The first one is I'm just going to make a change that we're no longer giving out loans which are over $1 million. Okay, so I'm going to delete that block. And then I'm also going to come through here and just directly hook up that if you're applying for a mortgage, the applicant is automatically approved. Okay, now if I hit the save button, what we're going to see is on the right hand side, we have two paths which were impacted by this change. Okay, we have our scenario here, which is now broken, which before was going from mortgage to one of the credit scores. And we have our other path here, which was going through the over $1 million loan amount. Now, what you'll see on the right hand side is we have this automated maintenance button. And what this basically does is it goes away, it takes the paths we have, and it does a comparison, and it looks at, is that test case broken at the moment? If it's still valid and it's still applicable, given our changes that have been made, obviously it's untouched, it persists. If that test case is broken, it tries to repair that test case to bring it up to speed with our model and the changes that have been made. And then we also have a third state here, which is this test case is no longer relevant. It's broken, it doesn't add any coverage, and therefore it can be safely deleted and removed from our test suite. Okay, so as part of that process, we'll see that our test suite has been updated. We've got our one path down here that's been repaired. And obviously, as part of that process, we can go in, we can look at our coverage level. And if we need to, because we have states which are no longer being covered, we can come in, hit the improve coverage button, and we can bring our test cases back up to date, so they're auto maintained. But we can also, as part of that, bring up our coverage, so we're still hitting 100% coverage with our test suite. So this is a nice way to be able to tackle and manage change, which obviously typically happens within agile projects where there's a lot of change requests and there's a lot of new requirements coming in. So what I will say is that there's a lot more updates that have happened over the past quarter, and you would have seen a glimpse of that from the roadmap. We keep very up-to-date release notes. If you go into our knowledge base, you'll see in there we have all of our release updates. There are clickable links, and typically they take you through to videos where you can see the new features that have been released. Also, if you would like to keep up to date with the very, very latest as they're coming out, we're constantly posting updates to LinkedIn, either on thought leadership, white papers and articles that are coming out, infographics, and we also share our product updates as they go through as well. So if you'd like to keep updated on that, just follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to keep you posted. So Huw, I'm going to hand over to you if that's okay.
Sure, James, no problem. Can you hear me okay?
I was a little bit muffled. Hopefully it's better.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect.
No problem. Okay. Okay, So hopefully you can see my screen. Just give me a shout to make sure you
Yes.
can.
Yes.
Okay, doke. Right. So let's just quickly do this and move that horrible bar out of the way, as usual. Okay, so for those of you who have been using data generation, which is amazingly powerful in terms of the types of data that you can create. Previously, you had to use our RPA tool, which was VIP, which means you had to sort of do some work on your Windows box or go onto the server and do it. Now this is all built into the UI, and it's just a million times easier to use. We are continually putting in a bunch of accelerators in there, and we've probably got about another half a dozen to put in, but the core functionality, which is very similar to if you used the VIP, is pretty much there now. So I'm going to just demo. Before I do that, I'm just going to show you another one, which is the ability to preview the data. So you've gone in, you've played around with all the different generation rules that you're dealing with, and then you say, well, before I go off and in effect sort of instantiate that by creating a VIP flow on the server and creating a form and running it, let's just run it in kind of preview mode. And within about anything between about 30 seconds to a minute, you can have a quick look to see what the data generation is doing. So let's go over and have a quick look. I've opened up a whole bunch of tabs, so as I work my way through, I'll just kind of close them off as we get there. So first things first, this is your data generation, data activity. Most of it, all of these components will just get added in automatically. The main one that you're really dealing with is your generation rule set. Now, if you go in and have a look at that, you'll see in here we've now got all of the functions that are in here. You can have multi-line as well if you want to have more than one row. So if you've got an example of a nice customer order and an item, with several orders and several items, you can just in effect switch to horizontal mode instead of having one row. Here I'm basically dealing with all of our standard functions. So here I've got maybe this one, which is a status. Now I can just click in there and it goes to our data painter, so I can go in and use all of the standard data painter functions that I'm interested in. I just want to put in functions like that. All of the parameters are here as well, so you can use those and bring those in, and you can refer to other columns as well if you want to, and use the columns inside here. So you basically kind of do your normal work inside the generation rule set. Once you're happy, what you do is just say, I want to build a flow. You click on build a flow, tell it the server you want to push it up onto, and what we'll do then is we will then go off and actually just generate that flow. If you have made an egregious error, which hasn't been picked up by preview, you will get a compile error, and you can just click on the compile error and see what it is, and then you can go off and fix the rule set version. So it's pretty straightforward and much easier to use. There are a bunch of accelerators going in, which we'll publish a little video on. Now, the next thing is this run preview. So I've been playing around here, and all I have to do is just fire off this job. Now, there's a couple of little options here. You may well want to play around with some connections. In this case, I've already defined the connection ID in here. Now, rebuild the in-memory flow. So if you've changed anything with the rule set expressions, you would need to click that. But if you're just playing around with different parameters, then all you have to do is just go up to the rule set. In the rule sets, we have basically a set of defined variables. Here you'll see the parameters. So if I wanted to change some of these defaults, maybe look up a specific customer, etc., then I can just go in, and all I have to do then is just run that preview. You will get the same CSVs that you would when you're dealing with publishing. You'll see here that what we've done is also given you a little, basically a little preview on the screen so you can see what's going on. So we were creating one customer, 2 orders, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. You can see we've got the order IDs are 1 and 2. Obviously, we won't be, unless we're using our internal sequences, these numbers are just going to be 1, 2. Obviously, when you push them into your environment, they could be, 10,001, 10,002, etc. Here's the various product IDs. Now, in this case, what we're doing is we're pulling in data from the target environment for item IDs and product IDs. And here, it's so, in other words, whatever you've done inside the rule set would be displayed in a kind of nice, easy to use and easy to see method. Okay, so that's the first two things. Now let's just move on to now this is kind of an important one. So when it comes to preparing environments, people spend a lot of time saying, oh, well, let's think about copying data, copy the whole copy production. Oh, let's do some subsetting, let's do some masking. Whereas actually what you really want is just the problem with when you copy an entire environment is it kind of destroys everything in your environment. You might have been spent ages and ages creating a whole bunch of tests in there, and then suddenly someone's just said, right, we're just going to copy over production, mask it, and chuck it in. So there's an enormous amount of kind of infrastructure dealing with that. Whereas actually what you tend to want is, I want a specific type of customer or a specific customer that I'm familiar with from my QA environment, and I want to push it into my development environment. So we used to have a separate thing called data cloning, but now what we've done is we've switched that, and we've switched it into the data generation world. So here what we're doing is we just choose the tables that we're interested in cloning. So all I have to do is just create a rule set. Within that, we've got a set of tables like so. And for the most part, all you have to do is just run one of our rule set accelerators, and that will go off and say, where am I extracting the data from and to? Now, you can go from one technology to another. So if you're moving from SQL Server to Postgres, Oracle to Postgres, whatever, you can basically extract the data. You can also move data where there are different versions, because if you think about QA1, it may have a few less columns than Dev1. So, but you still want the data out of there. What you can also do is describe what is the selection criteria that I'm going to be dealing with. So I'm going to be pulling out, these are suppliers, so this is just going to be called par suppliers, and I'm just going to give it a list of suppliers, and then all I have to do is just update the where clause, and that will pretty much build the entire rule set for you. Now, when you get into the rule set, you can obviously come in and so you might want to get into some masking as well. So when you pull the data out, all of the masking functions that are pretty much available in your masking routines would then also, including hashing. Here, all I'm really doing is just changing the supplier clone. I'm just adding the word clone in so you can kind of see what's going on there. Now, if you look at cloning data is, as you would imagine, is quite complicated in a database world because you've got lots of kind of internal relationships, some of which are defined as foreign keys and some of which are defined as soft keys. Now, in this case, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be pulling out a specific supplier category type, I think, and then we're going to pull out all of the information with that and create you a brand new category. Okay, and all you really have to do is run your accelerator, make any small changes, generate your flow, and then you would end up with an execute form. So I want to create the data. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create, I'm going to pull out a couple of suppliers that already, sorry, that was customers I'm doing there. Give me 1 second. Let me just go supplier clone. Apologies, this one. And here, the categories I want to clone, so I want to pull out category 2. I'm going to click on execute, and that will, in effect, walk right across the database structure. And if we look at our suppliers, you'll see here that we've gone in, and for all of the suppliers for those categories, you'll see, let's see if we've got a category ID in here somewhere. Here we go. I've been playing around, so the last category I did was I cloned category ID, I think it was 2, which then became 10. So that then moves that in, and if we look for our, let's have a look at our supplier categories, you can see there that we've gone off and we've basically done some cloning of the entire category itself. So what does that mean? That is, as I said, a very, very useful way of being able to do bulking of data. Maybe I want, 10,000. I've got a very nice set of customers, and I would just want 10,000 of them. So I can put in some generation functions. I can bulk that data up. I could also use it for in-flight masking, where I'm pulling data out and pulling it directly into my local development environments. I can mask that data. You can also make similar data. Quite often you have something which is pretty close to what I want, but I need to basically make a few tweaks to it. So we will trawl across, reassign all of the keys, foreign keys, soft keys, anything like that, and then you could then parameterize up. And if the form that I submitted for all customers, I can actually reset maybe the order dates to today's date. I can set the different statuses on the orders, etc. Okay, so it's a very powerful little utility, very useful. I use it all the time to be able to create data that I'm familiar with, but I want more of it. Or again, if you've got automation going on, what you want to be able to do is have enough data. So you may pick a specific customer or product code or whatever it is, and say, well, I'm going to create 100 of those because I'm going to run this automation, and it's I'm going to you end up not cannibalizing it, and each automation test case would have its own product category code then to run. Okay, so that's that. Okay, this is a big one now, which is to do with defaults. Now, this is a lot to do with, we talked a lot about maintenance. Now, one of the issues is that, you've got a whole bunch of data generations. You might be creating, some Avro messages. You might be generating, ISO 2022, and you've ended up with a whole bunch of data generators that you're interested in, or a bunch of masking. And what you really want to be able to do now is to say, well, I want to go off and I want to go and make a whole bunch of changes to my rule sets. Here we've got a whole bunch of rule sets which are doing a bunch of stuff. Now, what you can do is just go off and have a look at. Let's go over here, and if you go to Rules, Rule Set Explorer, and if you go to Defaults, you'll see we can create. Previously, we just had one set of defaults, but there are lots and lots of different types of defaults. Here, you've got this idea of being able to create. I would like a specific name, or I would like. So I want the name to be, say, IBAN, or contains IBAN, or something like that. But then what I also want to be able to do is say, well, if someone's already done something to it, I don't want to override it. So pre-processing from initialization, or if someone's made a manual change, don't go in. And we've got all these different variations to be able to hunt for definitions that you're going to do update. And we're going to ship basically a standard set of them. Now, if we go and look at, now these can be applied all over the place. If we go and have a look at, let's go and look at Postgres, this one here. Now, what I want to be able to do is I've actually done a little bit of work on the IBAN, and I want to basically reset the IBAN in a whole bunch, all of the rule sets. The first thing this is doing is showing me all of the rule sets that are connected to this particular definition version, which is actually useful in itself to be able to track down, because it could be someone else has been working on it, someone maybe copied one of mine, and I want to see what's going on. Then what you can come in, say, well, what do I want to do? In this case, I'm just doing a really simple set of an IBAN. And what will happen then is it will go off and it will hunt through all of the rule sets. It's giving you the rule set versions that we're changing here. This is the match that it's found. These colors are very useful because it's telling us where did these changes come from. You might have made a small error. For example, these ones here, which are actually come in from global defaults. I think I'm comfortable in leaving those. It's only really, so probably, actually, these are the only ones I want to change here. So I might want to go back and change my filter. And these are my values. I can click apply, and that would again go off and do a mass update, in this case, across lots and lots of rules, generation rule sets, and then I can then go off and actually then just rebuild them, and within a few minutes I'm back up, and we've now got our new generation functions set up, ready to go. So let me just close down a few windows here. So leave that one alone, leave that one, leave that one. Let's subset clone. Let's just close that one down. That is supply clone. Okay, fine. Now, if we just go back to, okay, so we've done a lot more pipeline integration. So if you look at, let's have a look at this one. So here we have, in effect, what we want to be able to do is to prepare an environment. So what we've done is over here is we've got basically a QA environment, and we want to pull out data from our development environment and populate some data into our QA environment. So we set up these tables, and we've created a pipeline. And what we've got here is a whole set, and the way that you build the pipeline is very straightforward. You just go and find the activities that you're interested in, and you can drag them in. You know, so I'm doing some data generation. Maybe I want to add one of those clones in. So let's go and have a look at some maybe our subsets and clones. I want to add some of those in, and I can basically just come in and maybe I want to clone some suppliers as well, and I could just drag that into the pipeline. So here we're doing some validation. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but we do some very strong database validation to make sure that all of the soft keys or any kind of summations, you can build as many rules as you like in there. We're then going to do a subset, which is one of our standard test data activities. So in this case, what we're doing is we're pulling out a specific supplier and all of their customers' orders, items, and products. We need to reset some sequences, so think of that as plumbing, because obviously once we push the data out from subsetting, where we retain the values of the primary keys, we want to do some masking. So that's telling us the masking we're going to do. You can come in here and go and have a look at the rule set version to see what's going on. And we'll see all the masking rules that are in there. We can see all the different masking rules directly from here, from inside the pipeline. And then when you run this, basically what we're going to do is it will chain the jobs together. In this case, we're doing them sequentially. If possible, we can do them in parallel if you define them that way in the pipeline. First thing we're going to do is to do a validation of our source, and what we found here is some errors. Now, these errors are not a bad thing. They're just it's just informational. In this case, we're playing around with some IBAN numbers to make sure that we can identify our bad IBAN numbers. This is our subsetting, and this is a standard subsetting, and this has walked right across the database and actually pulled out lots and lots of data and started with a specific set of suppliers and created as a much smaller database. We've then gone through reset the sequences, because obviously now we need to, when we do any generation, we need to reset our sequences. These are all our standard utilities, which you can just add in. Here, what we were doing was actually just generating some data. And if we go and just do our prepare environment, and we just run an execute, all of the, if you think about all those different jobs, oops, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing there. Should have been execute, not modify, which is all of the jobs that we have sitting around inside that pipeline get aggregated up. So here we've got our basically where we're pulling the data from, where we're going to push the data to. We can also, maybe we want to turn on some auditing. I want to change some of the orders. I want to have, I'm testing returns, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a couple of hundred customers, and then I can play around with the amount of orders, items, and customers. And the result of that is that when we look at that job, you can see that we've actually added in a set of additional data. So we've brought masked subsetted data in, then we've also generated data on top of it, like so. And at the end, what we've also done then is we've gone in and generated, and we've done our validation to make sure. Again, you can see the volume of data that we're testing is much smaller because we're using a subsetted database. Now, the number of errors again has gone up, and the reason for that is because what this generator is actually testing this dodgy IBAN number as well. So that's what that generator was, which is why those errors in. So you get a nice simple report, and like all of the jobs, if you want one of these jobs, all you really have to do is just basically go off like that, and you would see then we have our API call as well. So you could go make an API request or a Java request as part of your pipelines, your Jenkins pipelines to go and provision those environments. This is going to become way more sophisticated over the next couple of months, and we're going to basically move it and create almost a full RPA engine on top of it. Okay, so that's that, and let's just go to that. Now, we've done a few basically improvements to some of the forms. If you're into doing fines, now one of the things that if we just go and have a look at this particular form here, what we've done here is we've picked up an order count, which previously you'd have to type in a value, but what we've done is we're now using some lists in here. So if we look at type, I believe, somewhere down here. Okay, sorry, I can't find that one. But basically, so these values here, if I just say medium orders, we've got basically two columns, one of which is a description column and one of which is an actual value. So what you don't, in this case, I'm just setting them to numbers, but quite often you'll have very confusing code types. And what we've done here is allowed you to, in effect, just put in a drop down of the description. And if you click on the execute, what you'll see, if we actually look at the job, I'm just going to go in the plumbing in the background here. You will see, if we look at the parameters that have been created, that has been converted from that text value to a 3. Okay, so that's very useful, and it just makes it easier for the end user to use something like that rather than having to fiddle about with trying to work out what those codes are. What we've also done is we've got this ability now to use, we've added in a range characteristic, and all you have to do is just take a standard form, and if you go to modify like so, and if you look at one of the parameters, previously it was just a text box, I want some value in, and all we've done is just change it to a range. You can obviously set labels as well, and what that will do then is it just allows you to put in those range values. We then convert that then into a value between certain ranges as well. So that's a very powerful and useful way of being, to pull out data with between certain ranges of amounts, etc. Okay, and I think that's about it. Yep, that's me. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Huw. Yeah, I'll just share my screen. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so thank you, Huw, for the updates there. You covered quite a lot. A lot of powerful things. Obviously, I love the pipeline models, and yeah, I think they're super useful. So yeah, cheers for that, Huw, and cheers, James, for your presentation. But yeah, now I'd like to, start the Q&A section. So if you do have any questions or any thoughts in general, please do leave them in the chat box, and I can get Huw or James to answer them. But in the meantime, I know James, we've been doing a lot of work on the UI UX for Modular and ETD. Last year, we updated the Modular Canvas. Do you have can you give us an outline on what to expect when it comes to UI for 2024?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of you will have seen we updated the whole authentication process recently, and the workspace selection pages which have come through. We're currently working on the main kind of modular dashboard page, I guess if you want to call it that, and the main kind of experience. Let me just see if I have a quick screenshot here, just while we're together. Product roadmap. There we go. Yeah, let me share the screen here.
Yeah, do you want to pull that up? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this one. Yeah, so basically, this is kind of the new user interface that is coming through. As I say, we've just done the main pages, the workspace, the registration and everything. In the next couple of weeks, for those of you on cloud, we should have the new sidebar and the new top bar experience there. And then we're going to move slowly onto kind of the main model explorer page, and then onto the main modeler canvas and refine it. So yeah, things are coming along great. We're going to see more changes in the next couple of weeks, but there's lots and lots and lots more changes coming over the next few months, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those look really good. Cool. So I do have a question here from the chat. This one's for you, Huw. How do you subset data across multiple databases at the same time handling for RI? You
yeah,
are
muted. Yeah, subsetting across multiple databases. Okay, so okay, it's a horrible answer. It depends. So in effect, what happens is when you run the subset, you've got a choice. You can start with one of the databases. So say you maybe want to pull out your customers, okay, which is you tend to have one database tends to be dominant. You would pull out the characteristics of that customer, maybe customer types or whatever, however you build up that list of keys that you want to pull up. You might have people making requests for particular types of subsets. Once that subset has run, that then pulls the data out. What we can do is we can create what we call it's in effect it's kind of a cross definition link. So and what will happen then is we would then come up with a list of keys which would then be used to drive the subset of the second subset that you then need to push into the other environment. And that's pretty easy to set up. You just have, in effect, you just join together two subsets and just telling us what relationships you want to use to drive the data. If, however, you want to pull out a subset where there is some characteristics which are common between both of them, so you might want to say, well, look, I need VIP customers, but I also need where there's been a high level of returned orders, which is in a different system. Now, under those circumstances, what you need to do is to do a little bit of data mining, which is pretty straightforward. And in our next product update, we'll show you we're kind of adding in what we call a mini DB, and that would allow us to mine data from both technologies. That then pulls in, if you think about it, the business characteristics of those, and you would run your, and we would then say, well, okay, let's go and do a little bit of mining for customers, and we care about the VIP flag. We also care about the number of returned items. We build out a small cube. Again, you don't need to do it for the entire database. You just need to do it until you've got enough data. So we'll just, you just maybe looking at 10, 20,000 rows in there. You then drive your subset off that, and you say, well, okay, that subset contains enough of the characteristics that I care about, and then we're going to pull out the keys or drive both subsets off that same table. Okay, so that's kind of how you do that. You may want to chuck in some API calls to ERPs as well, and this is, this idea of trying to create sort of richer and smaller sets of interface tests or integration testing.
Awesome, thank you, Huw.
There was a question there to create a demo on that. Yes, we will do. We're actually working on a whole series of kind of small demos on that. It's also the same for synthetic data as well, because quite often you think about it, you might want to push data into the two in different environments. So you might want to use a combination of cloning, our new cloning, which is generation, and then also associated with those clones, you might want to then say, well, actually, we need to push in a whole bunch of products into our product management system as well. So yeah, we're going to start churning those out over the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
awesome. Thank you, Huw. Yeah, Charles, if you like, you can always book a demo with one of our team members, and they can walk you through it. A little demo button should be on your screen right now. But yeah, I think apart from that, I think we can start to wrap it up. So, that's everything we have for today. Thanks again for everyone who joined, for your questions, and to my colleagues for the great presentation. And yeah, so if you'd like to carry on the conversation, or if you want a demo, if you have questions, there are a number of ways you can get in touch with us. If you'd like to learn, so you can email us, email Huw, email James, get in touch with us by email, Twitter, LinkedIn, I'll visit our website, chat with us on our chat bot. But yeah, anyway, all the details, there will be more updates coming, the Q2, Q3, Q4, as throughout the year. So please do look out for the email invitations for those. And also remember that the recording and the slides will be shared with you in an email tomorrow. So I think all that remains is to say a huge thank you for everyone who joined, and a massive thank you to James and Huw for presenting. Cool. Thank you. See you next time,
Thank you
everyone.
all. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.